You guys, today's conversation is so good. Okay, I have the one, the only, Emma Fabros, and she is the founder of Because She's Whole. It's an online ministry that really talks about how to embrace the whole of who God created you to be, okay? Like the entirety of who you are, because there's so many facets to each human, so many personality traits, so many characteristics, and how do you embrace every aspect of who you were created to be? And that's exactly what we're gonna talk about today. Emma is incredible, she's amazing, she's a social media icon. I love this girl. I have never loved following someone on social media as much as her. We're gonna get into all of that though. We're gonna get into all of the tangible, practical tips, as you know, how to understand who God created you to be, how to read the Bible in a way that helps you understand who He is, all of the things, okay? All the things. It gets so good. You're going to love this episode, I already know. So let's jump in with Emma Fabros from Because She's Whole. Okay, guys, so this is actually Emma's and my second time recording this podcast for you guys. We just had so much to say, I guess. Last time the recording, it was so messed up. As I was like editing the audio, it just didn't work. So Emma's here for part two. That is how much she loves you. She is here for part two, okay? So Emma, once again, how we start every single episode is what we're drinking. I actually today have a very fun chai latte from Starbucks, which I usually don't get, but I had a DMV appointment this morning and I had to do anything I could to make it better. And I still didn't get anything done at the DMV because they kicked me out. So anyways, what are you drinking?
I love that. Yours is a lot more exciting than mine. I went to the gym this morning, because we're trying to be healthy girls over here. And I just have like a protein shake to keep me going before I
I
have
love that.
breakfast after this. So
What did you do at the gym?
today I did arms and back. So it was a time. I feel like
So you're a
after
lifter.
I yes and no. Like I dabble, like I'm slowly getting into it a little bit. Doing a lot of like weight training is really fun, but I'm still like intimidated. Like I wouldn't consider myself like a gym rat or anything, but like I'm slowly working the confidence up there. So little by little, we're getting there.
I love that. So do you go with anyone or do you go by yourself?
No, I go with my boyfriend pretty
Oh,
much
that's so
every
nice.
morning. Yeah, it's nice having that accountability partner because if he's not there, I'm like, Emma, we don't want to go. Especially because it's so early, like 6:45 a.m. I'm like, why would I get up? You know?
I am in the same boat, seriously. So in college, I was really good at waking up and working out because I went with my roommate and then lived by
Mhm.
myself or whatever, stopped doing that, couldn't work out, got married, and now I'm good at waking up again and working out in the morning because it's my husband. And I was like, I need
Right,
that accountability. I need that. Which
right.
I wish I didn't. I wish I could be one of those people who could like, girl boss by herself over there in the gym. I can't.
Yeah. Maybe one day for us that'll happen.
Maybe we'll just get in the habit, but it's not here yet. Okay, so Emma, I would love to talk a little bit about your online ministry. You and I connected on social media. You have an amazing online ministry called Because She's Whole. Can you talk to me a little bit about what it means to be whole?
Yeah. Oh, thank you for the kind words. I have like a twofold answer. One, I believe there is a effort to really embrace the entirety of who you are and to really kind of take on that journey in itself, right? But then I think the bigger element of being whole, I believe, is being made complete in Christ. And that's a lot of what my online ministry focuses on is, yes, kind of coming alongside other women and being honest with yourself and doing that self journey alongside others of really like owning who you are in all different capacities and all different facets. But at the core end of the day, it's really about acknowledging who the king is and how he makes you whole, and really that's where your ultimate purpose drives from.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you talk to me a little bit about where this passion came from and where you got this idea to even start this ministry?
Yeah, BSW really started from like a personal place. But I'll give a little bit of context, a little bit of backstory. So I originally started working in the online space as an entrepreneur, and I was doing like virtual assistant work and then still doing to this day like social media services. And how it started was complete God thing. Like it was a shot in the dark, and then the Lord just kind of turned it into like a self-sustaining career. But it was probably a little over a year ago. I just kind of had this feeling that there was more that I was meant to do in the online space specifically. There was more that I was meant to do with this gift of entrepreneurship. But I didn't really know what that looked like. And I have this vivid memory of like driving home. I was visiting my sister in San Diego. She goes to college there. So it's a long drive back home. And I was like listening to worship music. And then all of a sudden, I just felt the Lord being like, Emma, I want you to serve other women, other Christian women in the online space and lead them to me. And I just kind of felt that so prevalently, like on my heart. But in the moment, I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what does that even look like, you know? And so I was like, okay, Lord, I felt such peace because I felt like I had a new direction, but I wasn't sure what steps to take. So I was like, I'm going to sit with this. I'm going to pray on it and see if God gives me like any more clarity or, you know, like, what do we do next? And over the following months, like, I just couldn't shake that feeling that I needed to start. I didn't know what I was starting, like in full transparency, but I was like, I need to just go with what the Lord has given me and start something new. And so I hired a business coach, and she really helped me begin to like develop this idea of what BSW is today. And a big part of it is rooted in my own personal journey of struggling to embrace the entirety of who I am. I've had a great upbringing. I've, you know, had the most blessings ever, and I'll never like take that for granted, right? But that doesn't mean we all don't have our own stories. We all don't have like our own struggles. And a big part of mine is throughout my life, I've always kind of carried a certain distaste for who I was, whether that was a physical attribute, whether that was mental, a characteristic, not being like good enough spiritually, whatever it is, there was something that I was just like not happy about, and I would let it consume me. And so BSW is really stemming from my own personal journey of learning to love who the Lord created me to be in my entirety, that I could be a number of different things, not just one mold, and He still loves me, and really just coming alongside other women to help them do the same. Because I figured if I'm struggling with that, so are other people, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And something that we connected on our first conversation was the whole mentality of being the eldest child and the pressure that
Mm,
comes with kind of having this maybe it's self-inflicted, but also maybe an outer exterior pressure
yeah.
that's put on us to have it all together, to be the one who's doing the most, has it all figured out, the plan mapped out. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and what your experience was in that realm?
Yeah, for sure. No, definitely a struggle from older older sibling syndrome. Like I think growing up, I'm a natural rule follower. I like instructions. I just, you know, I stick to what's given to me, right? I wasn't one to like go outside of the box. And I think like it's a great thing, right? To be obedient and to be like a responsible child. And I was a fairly content child at that. But it got to a point probably like in my later teens and like young 20s when I started to feel a lot of anxiety, and I would go through seasons of like deep sadness. Like I would be met with the response of, oh, that's so not like you. Um, and it almost made me feel bad because I was like, can I not be sad? Can I not be anxious or stressed and still be Emma? Like, is Emma only meant to be like one mold that is happy, put together, giving to others, taking care of herself? And if I experienced any emotion or anything that didn't fit in that standard, I was like, oh, maybe people won't accept me if I'm going through lower seasons. And if people won't accept me, maybe God won't accept me like that. And even deeper than that, too, I was realizing I don't accept myself if I'm not keeping up with this, she has it together mode. And that was a really tough pill to swallow, and honestly, something like I still battle with, but I would say now at least it's on our radar and something that you like actively kind of try and fight against too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can relate to that so much. And I have a feeling a lot of other people can. Just like you said, where when you are going through a season of anxious thoughts or even comparison or whatever it looks like for you, depression maybe, and you hear other people say, "Oh, well that's different. That's not usually
Yeah,
you. What happened to you?"
right.
And it puts this kind of like lens where you look at yourself and you're like, "Is this me? What is like who am I?" And especially
Mm,
in your teen and like younger years because you're still developing who you are. You're still stepping into the role that God created you to be. And when other people start questioning who you are already and you're not able to show the fullness of who God created you to be and who God accepts you as, that's really
right.
hard because God still loves us in our anxious moments. He knows that that's still part of who we are, even though his heart breaks for that. And so when other people aren't as accepting or other people don't understand that, it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
So I would love to know a few of your tangible steps here for embracing the whole. What are some of your practical things that you do that when you find yourself kind of maybe falling back into that season of like, ooh, do I like this part of who I am? Well, really, is that me? All of those
Mm.
doubts and thoughts.
Yeah, yeah, no, for sure. First and foremost, I think kind of taking the approach of a posture of like honesty, I think first and foremost. I wasn't able to really start this journey unless I was honest, one, with myself, that I was struggling, um, two, that I needed to be honest with the Lord. And yes, like the Lord knows all the things about you, right? And it's not that he's uninformed about what's going on in your life, but it's that extra step of really laying it down on his feet and being like, Jesus, I know you know, but like I am struggling with this and I need to invite you into this if I hope to heal one day. So I think tangibly speaking, it's kind of that, daily bread of being like, Lord, this is what I'm giving to you today. And like, please do what you can and just come alongside me as I approach today. So I think that's been a huge step of really like rooting my day and starting it that way of just like giving it to the Lord and surrendering it to the Lord. Alongside that being like persistent prayer. And really for myself, and I know for a lot of others that I've talked to, like a big part of struggling with anxiety or just like depression or just whatever is dealing with like intrusive thoughts, right? Thinking like, oh, I'm not good enough. And, just really fighting the devil in your brain. And I was like, Emma, the only way you can hope to combat those lies is if you fill your mind with truth. And I was doing like a daily Bible reading for sure. But was my heart in the right place? I don't really think so. Like, I was more so just going through the motions of, like, I read a chapter, yay, I can check that off the list, right? But when I started to really struggle internally, I was like, in hopes to change something, I need to get my heart in the right place. I need to get my spirit in the right place. And that comes with like intentionally like reading the word and like filling your mind with truth and kind of approaching it with a different mindset of like, no, I'm going to understand what this chapter is about. I'm going to understand who all of these people are, like what this teaches me about God. And I think that has really helped me like reframe like my mindset for the day, right? It gets my focus off of myself and it gets me more on the attributes of the Lord. So I think, having that combo of prayer, really studying the word, and then a big part of that too is just journaling, getting all of those emotions out there, documenting like what your days look like, what your seasons look like, has been really helpful and a really beautiful gift to look back on. But the little cherry on top that I would give is really just allowing yourself to play. And what I mean by that is I like to kind of preach about coming back to the child that God created you to be. And as you get older, everything becomes like so complicated. And all of a sudden, the things that were once so simple now just are not, and they seem messy. And so, in a pursuit to try and come back to Emma at her core, has been allowing myself to like just go have fun go play. What are my passions? What are my hobbies? What lights my soul on fire? And go do that, because that's not by accident and that is all God designed. So, really kind of allowing yourself to sit in who the Lord created you to be in all the fun ways, but in also the ways that are a little more serious and internal too.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I have two questions for you on this. I'll start with the first one. Can you walk me through what your Bible studies look like then? Very granular, because I think that this is something that is incredibly intimidating for most people,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially when you start trying to really understand what you're reading and not just looking at it very topically. So walk me through granular details.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll start by saying this too, that I've been a Christian the majority of my whole life. And I have that insecurity, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, that I don't know enough. Therefore, my faith isn't good enough. So, if anyone's listening and can feel the same way, like, just please know, like, you're in good company, and that is not true. So, my whole reframe of my routine has kind of just helped build a certain sense of confidence, but by no means do I know all of the things. So, right now, my routine typically looks like I read a chapter of the Bible. I'm not someone that can read 3 to 4 and really just download everything that was said. Like, I take it slow, and that's okay, because it's not a race, right? It's not a race to who can get through the Bible the fastest. So I was like, first, Emma, just like allow yourself to take your time. So I have a She Reads Truth Bible. I highly recommend. They have like great study Bibles. And it gives really good background too before you enter a book of the Bible. So, like before each book, it'll give you like the context of what's happening, like what is the overall main purpose, main theme of this passage, when is this taking place, where is it taking place. And for myself, that is super helpful to like pay extra attention to. So I will like take out my little like docs app, Google Docs app, and like write down like when is this happening, and I'll like do it note style, like as if I'm a student like studying for a test, right? So before I dive into a book, I'll ask myself those questions and kind of read into the Bible of like what exactly is going on, and what is the lens I need to be looking through. Then I'll dive in, read the chapter, and then afterwards sometimes you're like, great, I read that, but I don't really understand what it is I just read. And so I've found it really helpful to then after like look up commentary. So right now I just look up online, I think it's called like BibleRef.com, and it just gives like a really great summary, and a little more detail about the passage you just read, and that has helped me kind of like get a deeper like grip and like understanding of the passage. And then on top of that, for myself to like make sure I know what just happened, I write my own summary. So I look up the context, like ask myself the setup questions, read the book or read the chapter, and then look up the commentary, and then I write my own summary of what just happened. And that has really helped me kind of get a deeper understanding as to what the heck is going on, and how does that, one, teach me about the Lord and his ways, but also like how does that connect to where I'm at in my season of life. And if you want to take it a step further, I really think like journaling afterward is great for like a debrief, and you can debrief about your Bible study, treat it as like a gratitude list, or you can just document your days. I think having that flow of, feeding yourself spiritually, but also like internally and like lifestyle wise, is like a really great balance to get started.
Yeah, I could not oh my gosh, I could not have said any of that better. That was amazing. I absolutely agree with everything you said. I think there is so much power to understanding the context of what you're reading, and really not just reading it and being like, oh, that made no sense, but at least I got my God time in today. Like
Yeah.
truly trying to understand what God was saying to these people at this time, and then what we can take out of it for our day to day lives now. And, it's going to look different when you actually understand what was happening in that context. So I absolutely love that. And I think that it's a really cool thing that you're almost taking notes like it's a class. Like that's how seriously you're taking this, because I think sometimes it's easy to get into a routine of studying the Bible and not treating it with the same amount of seriousness and weight that it should have. Like you are
Yeah.
reading the truth, like the truth, the word of God. And it should carry that weight in our days. It should be studied with that much sincerity and intentionality. And I think it's very easy to just, read the verse of the day or skim it or whatever. And I will always say the verse of the day is better than no word. You know what I mean? So if that's all you're going to do, go you. But if you really want to build your relationship with God, if you really want to understand who he created you to be and the wholeness of that, you've got to get into the truth. So I love that so much. My second question for you was, when you say play, I love that so much. I love the idea of really embracing the inner child and allowing that person to have a place in your more adult life. Can you give me some examples of things that you do to actively play? What does that look like for you? And if someone wants to start, what are some ideas that are easy and not so maybe like going to a playground?
Right. No, totally. This was actually like a concept that was taught to me by like one, my therapist, I will say, but two, just like people in my like business circles, like my entrepreneurship circles. And I'll give this quick little story. And my therapist had told me this, and it kind of rattled my brain and just like gave me a lot of perspective before like starting this journey. And he was saying that he was like a student at the time and like earning his degree, and a bunch of the students that were like older 20s, I would say, were in class, and they were brought to this like playroom, and they were like, oh, maybe we're gonna like play with kids and like help them, just enjoy their day or whatever. And the instructor was like, okay, go play. And they had a playroom like full of toys, and like all of these like almost 30-year-olds were like, what? Like, and everyone just stood there. Like, my therapist told me that there was like no one knew what to do, right? And he was like, that was actually so heartbreaking. But give it like 20 minutes, and then every like adult started to play with like the toy cars and like the trains. And he was just like, never lose that sense of imagination, of creativity, of playfulness, because it really heals a certain part of your soul. And so that just like totally changed my perspective a bit. And so to answer your question, I think it kind of comes down to what your natural like loves are. What are your passions? What are your hobbies? So like for me, I love to dance. I grew up a dancer. And so if that means like making time in my schedule and setting it as a priority to go and dance, then I'm going to do that. Why? Just because it's fun. Like, does it help me be productive in any kind of way? No, not really. I could probably be doing other things, but it's just the act of like making sure that part of my soul is fed. I love to color, and that could be like such a kid thing to do, but it is so relaxing to just sit and color and have your mind be focused on like one thing. Getting outside, playing like on the beach is my happy place. So whether that's like doing an actual activity or if it's just getting outside and kind of outside of your usual bubble, I think that also is the same. Whatever brings you joy, it's really just that purpose of going to go and do that intentionally and treating it like it's just as productive as the other things on your to-do list, because it is. And whether or not you think it's productive, I promise you it is, because you will come back refreshed and renewed, and you will feel like, oh, that satisfied a part of who the Lord created me to be. And that has been a big part, I think, of my healing, is just learning that it's okay to just have fun. As adults, we can take something simple like a hobby or a sport or passion and, just have fun. But now we're like, I have to be the best. If I'm not perfect at it, then it's not worth doing. But I'm here to tell you that's not true. You can still just do it as a kid because you didn't care about that as a kid, right? Like you just did it because you loved it. And so it's kind of practicing that muscle and, kind of getting into that headspace again as if you were a child.
That is so, so good. And it's so funny you say that because I started playing tennis a little bit, and I struggle greatly because I'm extremely competitive, and tennis is not my natural sport. I played volleyball, so I always overextend my arms because I want to, connect with the ball, and it's very hard for me not to like dive and stuff, and it hurts so bad if you do that on the tennis court. I would know. So I like was struggling. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to play tennis. And it was taking so much joy out of it because I was putting this pressure to be really good and to be so impressive and all this stuff. And it was literally my husband and I at the park. Like, you know what I mean? There was no pressure on this. So the last time we went, we were like, you know what? We're not even going to play for points. We're just going to see how long we can like volley this ball back and forth. It was so fun. It was so relaxed and we were just being like goofy with it. And it filled my soul so much. And it was truly like playing like a child, where there wasn't this pressure on me to perform in that moment. And I think that is so crucial in this playing aspect, is you don't have to perform. You don't have to show up as the best version of yourself in those moments. You can just dance around your living room, or you know what, pull out a piece of paper and start, coloring this random picture, and then you can throw it away. You don't need to keep it. You don't need to try to sell it. You don't need to make a business out of it. You don't need to be like such a good artist that's going to hang in a museum one day. And if you can't reach that goal, well, then you just failed at playing. Like, no, embrace it, have fun with it. And I love that so much. It's so good. So I want to talk a little bit about social media for a second, because Emma, I mean this in the truest way I can say it. I think that you have become one of my favorite people to follow on social media of all time. You are so raw and authentic on social media in a completely new way. I think people think that if you share your problems on social media, that's what it means to be authentic. And there's a layer of truth in that. However, there's also pain points that can come from that. And what you share on social media is your true, in the moment feelings on something, but also how you're getting better, how you're seeking God in that, how you're trying to better where you're at in that moment, and you're celebrating other people. I'm not even kidding. I haven't answered the DM yet, but I saw it from you, where I clicked on your story and it said like, take what you need. And I clicked encouragement because yesterday I had a really, really bad day. And you DM'd me like such an like, I'm sorry, the intentionality behind that. And that's what I say. This is a ministry. You have created a community online. And I think that social media has lost that impact on people because we're consumers instead of being a part of the community. And when we consume so much, it's really hard. But what you're doing is you're truly creating a community of people that is online, allows you to connect with others. And it is incredible. It is incredible. So can you tell everybody a little bit about how they can get involved and what they can do to be a part of Because She's Whole, like today?
Yeah, of course. Well, first off, thank you. That makes my soul and heart just really happy. I think when you go out on a limb and you're like following the Lord blindly a little bit, it can be scary. And so to have people respond to the community and that ministry with just that love is just so soul fueling. So just thank you for sharing that. That really means the world to me. Because She's Whole, really, like you just said, Belle, like it's all about being a community. And I really just want to invite anyone and everyone who wants to come in and just be friends with me, be friends with the community. I have an Instagram page and it's just like, it's Emma Fabros, and we talk about like real things, raw things, whether that's faith-based or whether it's just like what's going on in our lives. Like it's really just meant to be a place of honesty, and for safety. And so I would love if you wanted to come and follow and join the family on there and come say hello, tell me your prayer requests, tell me about life. I want to hear all of the things. I got a website designed, was it like 2 months ago? I don't even know at this point, but it's my dream website. So shout out to Jordan if you're listening. She did amazing. And you can go on becausesheswhole.com, and it talks a lot about like the ministry of who we are, what we're hoping to build. She's a baby brand, like if we're being fully honest. Like she just launched in January of 2023. And so we're really just building her off the ground, and it is such a beautiful process, and I want you guys to be a part of it. So you can come and join the email list. You can get like monthly encouragements and just updates about what's going on, as well as like a little free like 5-day mini devotional journal that you can just have in your back pocket if you ever need a little go-to. But more than anything, I would just love for you guys to come and say hi and just be a part of it, because I want to know about you first and foremost. I think the Lord has given me a heart for others and really a heart for encouragement, and it really fuels my soul on fire to be able to do that for you and to have people share their stories with me. I think it's been beautiful to see the Lord connect me with so many other people in this space with like an invisible string, and I'm like, no way is the Lord like speaking to all of us in different ways, but through like the same means, you know, like it's been incredible. So yeah, if anything, just come and say hi, and that would mean the absolute world to me too.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of the links are in the show notes, guys. I made this as easy as possible, tagged on Instagram, all of the things. So you guys can go follow Emma, check out Because She's Whole. I seriously cannot stress enough how amazing it is, and it will really make social media exactly what it's supposed to be again, which is community and finding everyone that you can connect with. And Emma, thank you so much. I feel like you just gave so much wisdom. This is seriously like you gave 2 hours of your time for this because of the first time, and now here we are again. And I just seriously thank you so much for taking time to love on the Inspired Lady community, and even further than that, allow God to use your yes, because it is really, really cool to see what you're doing. So thank you, Emma.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me and doing this part 2. It means a lot to be invited back. It's been great.